Let's welcome in Jonathan Jones to talk about this. JJ, yet another quarterback moving around the NFL. We talked to Pete Prisco, said, I love this trade. What about you, though?
Yeah, I really like it for the Indianapolis Colts. There's no question about it when you consider that they sent Carson Wentz and his contract to Washington for what essentially was a swap of second-round picks and 2/3, 1/3 can move up to a second, that they then get Matt Ryan at 37 years old, for just one of those two third-round picks. I think that's a really, really good deal for the Indianapolis Colts, a Colts team that for the past 5 years has started a different quarterback in consecutive seasons. Now I believe that they're going to have Matt Ryan not just for 2022, but also for 2023. You add him to a team that has a pretty good offensive line, minus the left tackle. They got to get that figured out. That's okay. They still have time to get that figured out. They had 7 Pro Bowlers on the team, something that owner Jim Irsay had been talking about in sort of the aftermath of them faltering down the stretch in those final 2 games, including at Jacksonville, where, wow, I can't believe that we had this many Pro Bowlers and we were not in the playoffs, the most by any non-playoff team in the league last year. So you add Matt Ryan to that, who he's a guy, if you just look at his numbers, just the general numbers that we see, the passing, completion percentage and the yards, the interceptions, all that, you're going to see a guy who appears to be aging, appears that his better years are behind him. I'm not going to disagree with that. He's not the 2016 MVP anymore, but he's still really, really good. He's still a guy who for the past 5-6 years has been one of the best in the NFL under pressure. He's still one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL. You got to understand, this is a guy who the past couple of years has been playing from behind a lot. He was without Julio Jones the last couple of years, obviously with the trade last year, but then also with the injuries before that, as he was bringing along Calvin Ridley, as they sort of lost a step in the backfield at running back, and they had to put more on his arm. He still carried this team when it became sort of a faceless and nameless defense as well. And again, as they faltered with Dan Quinn at the end and an interim in Raheem Morris, and now bringing on Arthur Smith in his first year, now going into his second. So Matt Ryan has had to deal with a lot in Atlanta, and he's persevered through it. And he's played really, really well in spite of everything that's going on around him. Now you get him in some stability, like with the Indianapolis Colts. I really like this trade for the Colts.
All right. Everybody likes it for the Colts right now. Let's talk about the Falcons, though. What is left behind there, or where they go from here, I should say. Look, they swung for Deshaun Watson. They missed out there. Matt Ryan's now gone. Where do the Falcons go next?
Yeah, consider this, Amanda. This time last year, the Atlanta Falcons had Julio Jones, and they had Calvin Ridley, and they had Matt Ryan. And now they have 0 of those 3. You could call it a rebuild, I guess, in Atlanta. What do they do? Well, this creates actually $9 million in cap space for the Falcons, $9 million that they need. So this creates $9 million. They basically just had literally like 5 figures of cap space before this trade. And so now this opens up to about $9 million. So that gives them a little bit of breathing room. They'll probably restructure some other deals. And now they need to go out and find a quarterback. They pick 8th overall in the draft, and now this is just about a philosophical deal with Terry Fontenot, the second-year general manager, and Arthur Smith, the second-year head coach. Do you want to go get a Malik Willis, for example, at the 8th overall pick? Will Kenny Pickett slide past the Carolina Panthers at 6? Right now, I doubt it. Or do you want to get a veteran, maybe a Marcus Mariota? That's a guy whose name has been floated out there, who would make a lot of sense, rejoining Arthur Smith, who used to be in Tennessee with Mariota in his final time there in Tennessee. I could see it happening. What sort of deal would you work out with Mariota? Would you want just a one-year deal with him? He's had an injury history. The little bit of time he played last year, he dealt with injuries as well, and so that carries with it a risk. But frankly, you don't have a whole lot of money to go out there and do anything else. You can't trade for a Jimmy Garoppolo, for example. And so it's probably either going to be Mariota with a low base salary with some incentives or a big signing bonus that you can bring him in and have that veteran that can steer the ship, or you're going to put all your eggs in the draft basket and hope that your guy is there at number 8.
You and I had talked a lot over the past week or so, in a couple days. We even spoke earlier today, and you said, look, a guy like Baker Mayfield would have loved to go to the Colts, and you said that's not going to happen. Sure enough, it did not. Those who are left in the quarterback market, Baker, Jameis Winston's out there. You mentioned, obviously, you don't think he's going to go to the Falcons, but Jimmy Garoppolo, is he going to get traded at all? What is left now of the quarterback market?
So you have an opening in New Orleans, and Jameis Winston would make a lot of sense there if he wants to go back on yet another sort of prove-it deal there. The Saints, as we well know, even though they don't have a lot of cap space, can always create cap space. So would they send a third-round pick to San Francisco in order to secure Jimmy Garoppolo in the final year of his deal? Perhaps, but he also has that bum shoulder. You have the Carolina Panthers, who they don't have a whole lot of draft capital. The capital that they do have, they were willing to spend on Deshaun Watson. We know which way that went for them, and now they are looking very, very closely at the arm and more at the hand of Kenny Pickett coming out of the draft. So that's something to keep a close watch on. Houston Texans seem content right now to move forward with Davis Mills. It is a guy that they very much like, a guy who played really well last year. I would posit the second best rookie quarterback play last year behind only Mac Jones. And so they could move forward with him. But those are the teams right now that you're looking at. And look, Baker Mayfield, again, he wanted to go to Indy. I want a beachside villa. The Seattle Seahawks, are they going to go with Drew Lock? Maybe. But again, the Seahawks made a call about Baker Mayfield, but it was just a call. And right now, the Browns aren't getting very many calls on Baker Mayfield. I don't know that they're going to get much for him. I wouldn't be stunned if it winds up being an outright cut. I think that they do want something for Baker, of course, but he may ultimately choose his destination only because there may be only one team that wants him, and or he may get cut and he's a free agent. He can decide where he wants to go.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.